A dream job and a best friend. The morning sun filtered through the tall, arched windows of Starlight Atelier, painted shifting patterns across Elara's drafting table. The rhythmic whisper of her charcoal stick on the thick paper was a soothing soundtrack to her thoughts. A half-dozen fashion plates, each a vision of flowing silk and intricate lace, already adorned the corkboard beside her. Today's inspiration, a forgotten painting of a moonlit garden, was blossoming into a collection of evening gowns, each more ethereal than the last. She hummed a soft, tuneless melody as she added the final, delicate swirl to the hem of a gown, imagining it shimmering under the chandeliers of a grand ballroom. "Absolutely divine, Elara," a voice purred beside her. Lily, her glossy dark hair pulled back in a chic ponytail, leaned over her shoulder, a steaming mug of jasmine tea in her hand. "That's the one, isn't it? The centerpiece." Elara grinned, her heart swelling with a familiar warmth. Lily always knew. "I think so," she agreed, pushing the sketch forward. "Imagine it in midnight blue, with tiny silver sequins catching the light like stardust." Lily's eyes, usually sharp and discerning, softened as she studied the drawing. "You have a gift, you really do. Pure magic." She sipped her tea, her gaze still fixed on the intricate folds Elara had rendered. "It's like you see the fabric before it even exists." Their camaraderie was the bedrock of Elara's professional life. They had met during their design degree, two bright-eyed dreamers fueled by coffee and a shared passion for haute couture. Now, 7 years later, they were an inseparable duo at one of the city's most prestigious ateliers. Elara, the visionary, the creator; Lily, the meticulous pattern maker and trend analyst. It was a perfect synergy. Later that afternoon, a flurry of activity surrounded Elara's station. Colleagues, drawn by the buzz, gathered around her latest sketches. "Elara, these are breathtaking," exclaimed Marcus, the head of embroidery, his fingers tracing an imagined stitch. "The detail on this bodice, it's a challenge I'd welcome." Even Madame Dubois, the atelier's formidable owner, paused her brisk walk through the studio. Her silver chignon perfectly coiffed, she held a sketch up to the light, her expression unreadable. "Elara, come to my office at 4, she commanded, a hint of something Elara couldn't quite decipher in her tone. A nervous flutter started in Elara's stomach, but Lily squeezed her arm reassuringly. "She loves them. I can tell." At 4 o'clock, Elara found herself seated across from Madame Dubois' imposing mahogany desk. The air was thick with the scent of old leather and expensive perfume. Madame Dubois pushed a stack of the sketches across the polished surface. "These are exceptional, Elara." "Truly. Your Starlight collection has the potential to be our most successful yet." Elara's breath hitched. "Thank you, Madame Dubois. I've poured everything into them." "Indeed. I want you to head this entire collection, from initial design to final fitting. Lily will be your lead assistant, of course, overseeing the fabric sourcing and initial pattern development. You two work well together." Madame Dubois' gaze was piercing. "This is a significant opportunity, Elara. Do not disappoint me." Quote. Leaving the office, Elara felt like she was floating. The city lights outside the atelier window seemed to twinkle just for her. She found Lily sketching at her own desk, a half-finished technical drawing of a sleeve pattern. "You won't believe it, Lily," Elara gushed, practically bouncing. "Madame Dubois wants me to head the Starlight collection, and you're my lead assistant. We're going to do this together." Lily looked up, her pencil pausing mid-stroke. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her features before it was replaced by a wide, radiant smile. "Elara, that's incredible! I knew she'd see your brilliance." "Oh, this is fantastic news." She pushed her chair back and pulled Elara into a tight hug. "We're going to make this the best collection Starlight has ever seen. Just imagine our designs gracing the most exclusive events. We'll be unstoppable." They spent the next hour hunched over Elara's sketches, their heads close together, whispering excitedly about fabric swatches and embellishment techniques. "We should start with the midnight blue gown," Elara suggested, pointing to her favorite design. It sets the tone. And for the silver details, what if we use microbeading instead of sequins? It would have a more subtle gleam. Lily's fingers traced the lines of the sketch. Microbeading. Yes, that's brilliant. More refined. And for the draping, we'll need the finest silk chiffon, incredibly light, to achieve that ethereal flow. I know just the supplier who can get us a bolt of the exact shade you're envisioning. Her enthusiasm was infectious, mirroring Elara's own. As the studio emptied, leaving only the hum of the ventilation system, Elara felt a profound sense of contentment. Her dream job, her best friend by her side, a future filled with beautiful creations. What more could a girl ask for? She packed her charcoal sticks and sketchbooks, a spring in her step. Lily walked with her to the subway, their laughter echoing in the quiet streets. Elara was so wrapped up in the glow of her success, she didn't notice the subtle shift in Lily's usually vibrant gaze. A shadow lurking just beneath the surface, a flicker of something that looked suspiciously like envy. It was a fleeting, almost imperceptible thing, gone as quickly as it appeared, but it was there. A tiny crack, forming in the foundation of Elara's perfect world. Whispers and a cold knot. The scent of freshly brewed coffee, usually a comforting morning ritual, now felt different. Elara walked through the open-plan office, a half-smile playing on her lips, ready to tackle the new campaign brief. Yet, as she approached her desk, a peculiar hush seemed to fall over the clusters of colleagues. Not the usual pre-work quiet, but something sharper, more deliberate. She glanced at Sarah from marketing, who quickly averted her gaze, her fingers suddenly engrossed in sorting a stack of papers that looked perfectly aligned moments before. Across the aisle, Mark from design, usually a boisterous early bird, was hunched over his monitor, his shoulders stiff. He didn't even offer his customary nod. A cold knot began to form in Elara's stomach, a tiny, insidious seed of unease. It wasn't anything she could pinpoint, just a subtle shift in the atmospheric pressure of the office. Had she forgotten a deadline? Misplaced a crucial file? Her mind raced, sifting through the previous day's interactions, finding nothing amiss. Just yesterday, she'd been laughing with Liam over a particularly terrible stock photo. Later that morning, while refilling her water bottle in the kitchenette, Elara heard it. Two voices, hushed but distinct, from the other side of the partition. Quote, "Can you believe it?" A whisper, laced with a mix of shock and something else she couldn't quite decipher. "I know, right? After everything," the second voice trailed off, a low murmur. Elara froze, her hand hovering over the cold tap. She wasn't intentionally eavesdropping, but the words hung in the air, heavy and insistent. She seemed so genuine. The first voice continued, a hint of accusation now. There was a rustle, perhaps a chair scraping, then a sharp, "Shh! She's right there." The voices immediately ceased. Elara's heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She felt a prickle of heat on her cheeks, a sudden, mortifying awareness that she was undoubtedly her. She forced herself to finish filling her bottle, the plastic cool against her palm, her movements slow and deliberate. When she emerged, only the empty countertop greeted her. The whispers had vanished as quickly as they'd appeared, leaving behind a lingering chill. Back at her desk, the knot in her stomach tightened, a cold, hard stone. Every glance she caught, every murmured conversation that seemed to halt the moment she passed, fed its growth. Liam, usually so open, gave her a strange smile when she asked about the brief, his eyes darting away before meeting hers. He offered terse, one-word answers, his usual animated explanations conspicuously absent. The vibrant energy that had defined her work, the creative spark she usually felt, was suffocated under this new, unspoken tension. She tried to focus on the campaign, but the words on the screen blurred. Her mind kept replaying the hushed tones, the averted gazes, the sudden silences. What could they be talking about? What had she done? A wave of confusion washed over her, followed by a familiar, unwelcome pang of vulnerability. This feeling, this insidious sense of being observed, judged, without explanation, was a phantom limb of a past betrayal. She pushed it down, reminding herself that this was different. She had done nothing wrong. Yet the knot persisted, a tangible weight in her core. It wasn't just confusion anymore. It was a creeping apprehension. The air in the office, once filled with the hum of productivity, now felt thick with unspoken narratives that seemed to revolve around her, leaving her outside, isolated and bewildered. The whispers, though gone, echoed in her mind, a discordant melody threatening to drown out her own thoughts. She spent the rest of the afternoon feeling like an exhibit, the subject of silent scrutiny, and the cold knot in her stomach solidified into a painful, constant ache. The crushing news. The fluorescent lights of Mr. Harrison's office seemed to hum with an unnatural intensity, casting long, distorted shadows across his usually immaculate desk. Elara felt a prickle of unease as she sat opposite him, the worn leather of the visitor's chair suddenly feeling cold beneath her. He cleared his throat, a sound that seemed to catch in his chest, and avoided her gaze, focusing instead on a point just beyond her left shoulder. "Elara," he began, his voice uncharacteristically gravelly, "this isn't easy." He picked up a pen, twirling it between his fingers with a nervous energy she'd never witnessed in her composed boss. "You've been a tremendous asset to the team. Your designs, they have a unique spark, a vision." A knot began to tighten in Elara's stomach. This wasn't the usual praise. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with an unspoken truth. She watched his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed hard. "Unfortunately," he continued, finally meeting her eyes, and the sympathy etched there sent a jolt of dread through her. "We've had to make some difficult decisions. Restructuring, you understand. Economic climate, it's forcing our hand." Elara's mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. Restructuring? She was integral to the upcoming autumn collection. "Mr. Harrison, I don't understand. Is this about the budget cuts? I can work with less. I can streamline processes. I can..." He shook his head slowly, a deep sadness clouding his features. "It's not just the budget, Elara. It's other things. Things that have come to light." He paused, his gaze flickering away again, a hint of discomfort in his posture. "Rumors, I suppose you could call them." The knot in Elara's stomach twisted into a painful coil. Rumors? About what? Her creativity? Her work ethic? She'd always prided herself on her professionalism. Rumors? Heard what? Her voice was barely a whisper, a stark contrast to the clamor of confusion in her mind. Mr. Harrison sighed, leaning back in his chair, the squeak of the leather a jarring sound in the sudden silence. "That you've been difficult, uncooperative. That you've been taking credit for others' work, even disparaging colleagues behind their backs." He looked genuinely pained to deliver the words. "I've always known you to be different, Elara, but enough people have come forward now. It's created a very uncomfortable atmosphere. We can't afford any internal discord. Not right now." The words struck Elara like a physical blow. Difficult? Uncooperative? Taking credit? It was all so utterly, completely false. Her vision blurred, the vibrant colors of the office artwork blurring into indistinct smudges. She felt a cold dread seep into her bones, replacing the initial shock. This wasn't just about restructuring. This was a targeted attack. She stumbled out of his office a few minutes later, the termination letter clutched in her trembling hand. The words on the page a cruel mockery of her years of dedication. The familiar buzz of the design floor, usually a comforting symphony of creativity, now felt alien, hostile. She packed her personal belongings in a daze, each item a testament to a life she was suddenly losing. As she zipped up her bag, a quiet cough drew her attention. It was Marcus, another designer, his usually jovial face etched with concern. He watched her for a moment, then lowered his voice, almost to a whisper. "Elara, I'm so sorry about all this." She managed a weak smile, her throat tight. "It's a lot, Marcus." He shifted uncomfortably, glancing around. "Look, I probably shouldn't say anything, but I heard about the rumors." His eyes met hers, full of a quiet indignation. "It was Lily. She's been talking, saying things, to everyone it seems. Saying you were trying to undermine her, that you claimed her fabric choices as your own on the Laurent pitch, even that you gossiped about Mr. Harrison's personal life." The name hit Elara like a physical blow. Lily. Her best friend. Her confidant. The person she'd shared secrets with, celebrated successes with, cried with, after difficult critiques. A cold, bitter wave of realization washed over her, replacing the numbness. Lily. The charming, seemingly supportive friend who always seemed to be just a little too eager for details about Elara's projects. The one who'd been so effusive in her praise for Elara's Laurent pitch, asking probing questions about every detail. The betrayal was a fresh wound, deep and agonizing. It wasn't just her job, it was her trust, shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The world, which had moments ago felt merely uncertain, now felt fundamentally broken. The truth, ugly and raw, had finally presented itself. It was a crushing revelation, far more devastating than the loss of her career, lost in sadness. Beyond Elara's window, the external world dissolved into an indistinct blur of greens and grays. Days merged into an unbroken stream, marked solely by the shifting dance of light and shadow across her bedroom floor. The vibrant hues of her latest canvas, a half-finished cityscape teeming with imagined life, now seemed to taunt her from its easel. Each brushstroke, once a joyous expression, now felt like a hollow echo of a future shattered into countless irrecoverable fragments. The betrayal, sudden and merciless, hadn't merely derailed her career. It had excavated her faith in everything she held true. Trust, camaraderie, ambition, all reduced to cinders. She drifted through her waking hours in a haze, her once comforting home now a palpable enclosure. The familiar aroma of her mother's cooking, typically a source of solace, felt distant, almost alien. A gentle tap, barely audible, fractured the suffocating quiet. Elara didn't stir, feigning sleep, though her eyes remained wide, fixed on the ceiling. The door creaked open a sliver, revealing a pair of bright, inquisitive eyes. Mia, an ever-present shadow, slipped into the room, a small, slightly askew daisy clutched in her hand. Her little sister's boundless energy usually invigorated the house, but in Elara's space, she moved with uncharacteristic stealth. "Elara?" Mia whispered, her voice a soft trill. She edged closer to the bed, her small frame emanating concern. "Are you still sad?" Elara merely sighed, pulling the duvet higher. "Go play, Mia." Mia remained rooted. She hopped onto the edge of the bed, her bare feet dangling. "Mama said you're just taking a rest. But you've been resting for a very, very long time. Is it because of the bad people?" Elara winced. The bad people was Mia's innocent shorthand for Hook's devastating deception. She recoiled from discussing it, unwilling to grant it further dominion. She simply yearned for its erasure, to rewind time to before the whispers, before the lies, before her world's implosion. "It's nothing, Mia," Elara mumbled, her voice muffled by the pillow. Mia, however, was not easily deterred. She leaned in, her small face scrunched in concentration. "Look what I made for you." She presented the daisy, its petals slightly crumpled but still radiating cheerful yellow. "It's a happy flower. To make you smile." Elara's gaze flickered from the daisy to Mia's earnest, hopeful face. A tiny tremor, almost imperceptible, stirred within her. She managed a weak, barely there curve of her lips. Mia's face brightened, a small victory in the vast landscape of Elara's sorrow. The following afternoon, the ritual unfolded again. Mia appeared, this time with a stack of her own crayon drawings. Stick figures with exaggerated grins, a wobbly sun, and a purple dog. She carefully arrayed them on Elara's bedspread, a silent offering. "You like them?" Mia asked, her voice brimming with pride. Elara nodded, picking up one depicting a house with smoke curling from its chimney. It was childish, clumsy, yet undeniably vibrant. It evoked a time when art was pure, unburdened by expectations or the venom of others. "They're very colorful," Elara managed, a faint crack in her numb facade. Mia beamed. "I want to draw like you, Elara. You make everything look real. Can you teach me?" She pointed to the unfinished cityscape on the easel. How do you make the building stand up so straight? The question lingered, a delicate thread of possibility. Elara hadn't touched a brush in weeks. The idea of it, of picking up her tools once more, felt both formidable and strangely inviting. It was a skill she possessed, an intrinsic part of herself untainted by recent devastation. Teaching Mia wouldn't be about her career or critics, or the cruel indifference of a world that had abandoned her. It would simply be about creation, about sharing a piece of herself that remained whole. She looked at Mia's eager face, her eyes shining with admiration and an unwavering belief. In that moment, enveloped by the stillness of her room and the small, persistent warmth of her sister's presence, a tiny spark flickered. It wasn't hope. Not yet. It was something smaller, more fragile. A faint stirring, a whisper of a forgotten impulse to create. Maybe, Elara said, the word feeling rusty on her tongue. Maybe tomorrow. Mia clapped her hands, a sound like tiny cymbals. Yes, tomorrow. She bounced off the bed, her mission accomplished for the day, leaving Elara with the lingering scent of crayons and a faint, almost imperceptible shift in the oppressive weight of her sadness. The cityscape still mocked her, but now, a small, childish drawing of a purple dog lay beside it in her mind, a silent promise of a different kind of beginning, a spark of sweet inspiration. The late afternoon sun, a buttery yellow, streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Elara, perched on a stool, guided Mia's small hand across the page. See? A little curve here for the petal, she murmured, her voice soft. Mia, her brow furrowed in concentration, diligently followed the movement, her tongue peeking out from the corner of her mouth. They were drawing flowers, not the elaborate gowns Elara once sketched with furious precision, but simple, joyful daisies and cheerful tulips. Mia had insisted, her eyes wide and earnest, on learning to draw pretty things. Elara, initially hesitant, found herself drawn into the child's pure delight. The scent of Mia's lavender-scented crayon mingled with the faint aroma of freshly baked bread from Mrs. Gable's apartment downstairs. Mine looks like a lumpy cloud, Mia giggled, holding up her drawing. Elara smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, crinkling the corners. It's a beautiful lumpy cloud, Mia. And look, it has a happy face. She added 2 small dots and a crescent to Mia's daisy, transforming it into a cheerful, if slightly abstract, bloom. A warmth, small but persistent, bloomed in Elara's chest. It wasn't the feverish passion of creation she once knew, but a quiet contentment, like the gentle hum of a contented cat. Teaching Mia, witnessing her unbridled joy in the simple act of putting color to paper, chipped away at the bitter shell Elara had unknowingly built around her heart. Later, after Mia had scampered off to show her grandmother her latest masterpiece, Elara remained at the kitchen table. Her own sketchpad lay open, a half-finished drawing of a whimsical teacup nestled among swirling leaves. The lines were clean, the shading delicate, but as she stared at it, a familiar emptiness began to creep in. It was pretty, yes, but it lacked the fire, the urgent pull that once made her hands ache to create. The thought of designing another dress, even for herself, felt like donning a heavy, ill-fitting coat. The glamour, the intricate details, the very world of fashion that had once defined her, now felt tainted. A ghost of a dream that had turned into a nightmare. She cleaned up the crayons, stacking them neatly in their box, the vibrant colors a stark contrast to her muted mood. Her gaze drifted around the small, cozy apartment, a place that felt more like a temporary haven than a permanent home. What now? The question echoed in the quiet space. She needed something new, something untainted by the past, a creative outlet that didn't remind her of fabric swatches and runway lights. As if on cue, a small, brightly colored flyer, tucked beneath a stack of old magazines on the counter, caught her eye. It was yellow, the shade of a ripe lemon, and featured a whimsical illustration of a multi-tiered cake adorned with intricate sugar flowers. Sweet Creations Bakery, the bold letters declared. Cake decorating basics, beginner's class. Elara picked it up, Her fingers traced the smooth, glossy paper. The flyer promised lessons in piping, fondant work, and creating edible art. A tiny spark, a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time, ignited within her. It was a different kind of artistry, one she'd never considered, yet the images on the flyer were undeniably beautiful. The delicate roses, the shimmering edible pearls, the vibrant colors. It was like drawing, but with a different medium, a different canvas. She imagined the smooth glide of icing, the delicate shaping of sugar paste. It was tactile, immediate, and utterly unconnected to the world she had left behind. There was no room for backstabbing or jealousy in a cake class, only buttercreams and patience. A tentative smile touched her lips. Perhaps this was it, a new path, a new way to channel the creative energy that still hummed beneath the surface, waiting for direction. The air, which had felt still and heavy moments before, now seemed to shimmer with possibility. The art of baking. The rich aroma of vanilla and melting butter permeated the air, a sweet promise Elara yearned to embrace. In the bustling kitchen of the flour mill, she stood, apron cinched tight, a subtle tremor in her hands as she gazed at the immaculate white mixing bowl. Enrolling in the advanced cake decorating class had been a defiant step, a quiet assertion against the deafening silence of her past. Here, amidst the whirring of mixers and the clatter of spatulas, she hoped to forge a new rhythm. Her initial attempt at buttercream frosting was, to put it mildly, catastrophic. Mrs. Gable, the instructor, a perpetually cheerful woman with flour-dusted eyelashes, demonstrated a smooth, gleaming confection. Elara's, however, resembled curdled milk. "Too cold, dear," Mrs. Gable chimed, gently prodding Elara's lumpy output with a spoon, and a touch, overzealous with the powdered sugar. Elara sighed, consigning the gritty failure to the bin. Subsequent efforts to level a cake layer yielded a lopsided, crumb-riddled disc, and her first piped border evoked startled caterpillars rather than elegant scallops. The other students, most of them seasoned home bakers, moved with an effortless grace that left Elara feeling awkward and profoundly inadequate. Doubts, like insidious whispers, began to erode her resolve. Was this truly her calling? Or merely another ill-fated venture, destined for public humiliation, mirroring her previous downfall? Frustration pulsed within her, a hot flush spreading from her neck to her cheeks. Long after class had dismissed, she found herself alone in her tiny apartment, the kitchen counter a battlefield of scattered bowls and spatulas. The comforting scent of a freshly baked, if slightly sunken, chocolate cake filled the space. She immersed herself in a YouTube tutorial on tempering chocolate, her brow furrowed in concentration, the soft screen glow illuminating her determined expression. Hours vanished as she sacrificed sleep, practicing rosette piping on parchment paper, her wrist aching, her fingers inevitably sticky. The first few days were a maelstrom of flour explosions and frosting splatters. Cakes tumbled from cooling racks, frosting separated into oily puddles, and edible glitter seemed to adhere to every surface but the cake. There were moments she longed to hurl her piping bag across the room, to surrender to the familiar embrace of self-pity. Yet she recalled the sting of betrayal, the insidious whispers, the way her career had disintegrated like a poorly mixed batter. This endeavor transcended mere baking. It was about reclaiming something within herself. It was about discovering the profound joy of creation, a joy that no one's malice could ever snatch away. Gradually, painstakingly, a transformation began to unfold. The lumpy frosting yielded to a silken smoothness. Piped lines grew straighter, layers became more even. Her once clumsy hands now possessed a surprising dexterity. She deciphered the subtle nuances of butter temperature, the ideal consistency for a drip, the delicate balance of flavor extracts. Late into the night, the soft hum of her mixer became a soothing lullaby. She ventured into experimentation, infusing lavender into lemon curd, cardamom into a chai spice cake. Each small achievement was a tiny triumph, chipping away at the fortress of self-doubt. Then came the day. She stood before her family, a faint tremor of anticipation coursing through her. On the antique oak table, bathed in the afternoon sun, sat her magnum opus, a 3-tiered vanilla bean cake, adorned with delicate sugar peonies and gilded edges. The frosting, a pristine white, was impossibly smooth, each petal of the sugar flowers meticulously crafted. It was more than just a cake, it was a testament to her resilience, a tangible manifestation of her rekindled spirit. Her mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Elara, it's absolutely stunning. Her father, typically reserved, beamed with uncharacteristic pride. You truly possess a gift, my dear. A warmth spread through Elara's chest, a feeling more profoundly satisfying than any accolades she had garnered in her previous profession. It wasn't merely the compliments. It was the quiet affirmation of countless hours, frustrating setbacks, and the sheer grit poured into creating something so beautiful. As she sliced into the soft, fragrant layers, she understood that the art of baking transcended ingredients and techniques. It was about patience, about perseverance, and about the quiet exhilaration of finding joy in the making. And in that moment, as her family savored her creation, she knew this was merely the beginning. From home kitchen to bakery success, the aroma of almond extract and warm butter was a permanent fixture in Elara's small kitchen. It clung to the curtains, permeated her hair, and settled deep into the fabric of her favorite apron. What started as a therapeutic escape from the gnawing bitterness of betrayal had blossomed into something beautiful, something tangible. Her latest creation, a lavender-infused honey cake with lemon buttercream, sat cooling on the wire rack, its delicate purple frosting a testament to hours of careful work. "Elara, this is otherworldly," exclaimed her cousin Maya, her eyes wide with delight as she savored a bite. "Seriously, you need to sell these. My yoga studio would buy them by the dozen." Her aunt, always the practical one, chimed in. "She's right, dear, this isn't just good, it's spectacular. Remember Mrs. Henderson's birthday cake? People are still talking about that raspberry ganache." Elara blushed, a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the oven's lingering heat. Their praise was a balm, a gentle reassurance that she still possessed worth, still had something valuable to offer the world. After the devastating fallout with Chloe, after her career was so cruelly derailed by fabricated whispers, Elara had retreated, found solace in the precise measurements and comforting alchemy of baking. It was a world she could control, a canvas where her creativity wasn't twisted into something ugly. Word of her delectable creations spread through their close-knit community like wildfire. Soon, Elara found herself baking for every birthday, anniversary, and local charity event. Her phone buzzed with requests, and her tiny kitchen often resembled a well-oiled, sugary factory. One particularly busy Saturday, while delivering a tiered wedding cake to the community hall, she encountered Mr. Henderson, the owner of Henderson's Bakery, a venerable institution in their town. "Elara, my dear, this cake is a masterpiece," he rumbled, his usually stoic face softened by a genuine smile as he pointed to the shimmering gold leaf on her creation. "My wife, bless her heart, insists on your lemon bars for her bridge club now. Says mine are perfectly acceptable, but yours are transcendently tangy, and so..." He chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. "Tell me, have you ever considered doing this professionally, on a larger scale?" Elara hesitated, a flicker of fear tightening her stomach. The thought of putting herself out there again, of risking another public disappointment, was daunting. I'm not sure, Mr. Henderson. My kitchen is only so big." He nodded, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "Indeed. But my bakery, Elara, it's got space, and a reputation for quality. I'm thinking a partnership. A dedicated section, Elara's Sweet Dreams. You'd have creative control, your own branding. I'd handle the overhead, the marketing, the storefront. What do you say?" The offer hung in the air, weighty with possibility. It was everything she needed, a chance to rebuild, to create something truly her own, without the crushing burden of initial setup costs. The memory of Chloe's venomous lies still stung, but this offer felt different. Mr. Henderson was a man of integrity, respected by everyone. This wasn't a fragile, easily shattered dream built on trust she couldn't afford to give, but a tangible business proposal. With a deep breath, Elara made her decision. "Yes, Mr. Henderson, I'd love to." Quote, "The next few weeks were a whirlwind of flour, sugar, and excitement." The corner of Henderson's bakery was transformed. A whimsical sign, hand-painted with looping script and delicate pastel flowers, announced Elara's Sweet Dreams. She designed a menu that showcased her most beloved recipes: the lavender honey cake, the raspberry ganache masterpiece, delicate rosewater macarons, and rich chocolate tortas. The grand opening was a resounding success. The line stretched out the door, drawn in by the intoxicating scents wafting from the bakery and the buzz that had preceded Elara's new venture. Orders poured in: custom wedding cakes, elaborately decorated cupcakes for children's parties, delicate pastries for afternoon tea. Elara worked tirelessly, her hands moving with a newfound confidence, her heart brimming with a quiet joy she hadn't felt in years. Each perfectly piped swirl, each precisely layered cake, was a small victory, a testament to her resilience. The betrayal still echoed in quiet moments, a phantom ache. But here, amidst the sweet chaos of her bakery, Elara was finding her strength, one delicious dream at a time, a chance encounter and forgiveness. The scent of warm sugar and roasted coffee beans enveloped Lily the moment she pushed open the heavy glass door of sweet surrender. It was a bustling Saturday morning, the kind where the air thrummed with contented chatter and the clatter of ceramic mugs. She'd been drawn in by the whimsical display in the window, a tiered cake sculpted to resemble a blooming rose garden, each petal a delicate swirl of fondant, an edible marvel. As she navigated the small queue, her gaze drifted past the glass cases, brimming with glistening pastries and artisan breads, towards the open kitchen, where a chef in a pristine white apron was meticulously piping intricate designs onto a fresh batch of cupcakes. Then she froze. The chef turned, reaching for a squeeze bottle of raspberry coulis, and Lily's breath hitched. The familiar cascade of dark, wavy hair, pulled back into a practical ponytail, the focused intensity in her eyes, the gentle curve of her smile as she interacted with a passing server. It was unmistakable. Elara. Her stomach clenched, a cold knot tightening amidst the bakery's warmth. Elara, not just working here, but clearly running the show, radiating an effortless confidence Lily had never seen in her before. The tiny, elegant gold name tag pinned to her apron confirmed it. Elara, head pastry chef. When the line finally dwindled, Lily found herself standing before the counter, her original intention of ordering a latte completely forgotten. She felt a strange mixture of awe and acute discomfort. Elara, catching her eye as she stepped from the kitchen to supervise a new delivery, paused. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by a subtle stiffening of her shoulders. The happy hum of the bakery suddenly felt distant, replaced by the frantic thumping of Lily's own heart. "Lily?" Elara's voice was softer than Lily remembered, less tinged with the anxiety that used to define it. "Elara?" Lily managed, her voice a reedy whisper. She looked around, feeling the weight of unspoken history press down on them. This is incredible." "Your bakery." Elara offered a small, polite smile. "It's been a lot of work, but it's mine. Would you like something?" Her tone was professional, distant. The polite dismissal, the lack of any real warmth, stung. But it was nothing less than Lily deserved. Taking a deep breath, she decided to be direct. "Actually, can we talk? Just for a minute? Away from all this." She gestured vaguely at the bustling space. Elara hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's a small seating area in the back. Give me a moment." Lily waited, her hands clammy, watching Elara efficiently delegate tasks to her staff before excusing herself. The brief walk to the secluded corner, tucked behind a towering bookshelf filled with cookbooks, felt like an eternity. When they were finally seated across a small, rustic wooden table, the air between them was thick with unspoken words. "Elara," Lily began, her voice trembling slightly. I am so incredibly sorry. For everything. For the rumors. For letting my own insecurities get the better of me. For destroying your reputation. For costing you your job. I was a terrible friend. I was jealous. And I acted out of pure malice. There's no excuse, and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it. Properly. I've carried that guilt for so long." She looked down at her hands, twisting them in her lap, unable to meet Elara's steady gaze. A long silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the distant murmur of the bakery. Lily braced herself for anger, for tears, for a cutting retort. Instead, when Elara spoke, her voice was calm, almost serene. "Lily, I'm not angry anymore." Elara's words were a revelation, gently spoken but firm. "For a long time I was. I was devastated. What you did, it broke me. It felt like the end of everything I'd worked for, everything I believed in." She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. "But that devastation led me here. To sweet surrender. To discovering a passion for baking I never knew I had. A creativity I'd suppressed. It led me to a career where I'm truly happy, truly fulfilled, doing something I love every single day." Lily finally looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. Elara's face held no trace of bitterness, only a quiet strength. "If you hadn't done what you did," Elara continued, a faint smile touching her lips, "I would still be stuck, trying to climb a ladder that wasn't meant for me. I would still be in a job that made me miserable, trying to impress people who didn't care about me. You, in your own twisted way, set me free." She took a deep, cleansing breath. "So yes, Lily, I forgive you. Not just because I've moved past it, but because your actions, painful as they were, led me to a better path, a truer version of myself. I hope you find your own peace." The sincerity in Elara's voice, the genuine lack of resentment, brought an unexpected sting to Lily's eyes. It wasn't the absolution she'd expected, but it was a release, a quiet understanding that settled over her, lighter than any burden she'd carried. The air in the bakery, once charged with tension, now felt lighter, infused with the sweet aroma of fresh beginnings. A sweeter dream come true. The air hummed with the rich scents of vanilla, warm butter, and a whisper of citrus, a fragrant welcome for anyone crossing the threshold of the Gilded Spatula's bright red door. Sunlight poured through the expansive front windows, dappling the polished wooden display cases laden with edible masterpieces. Today was the culmination. After months of relentless effort, late nights, and the occasional flour-dusted frenzy, Elara's vision had officially come to life. A line snaked almost to the sidewalk, a lively mosaic of eager faces, both young and old. Inside, the intimate shop pulsed with an infectious delight. Robin's egg-blue walls, adorned with fanciful sketches of baking tools and mythical confections, enclosed the space. Gentle jazz drifted from unseen speakers, a soothing counterpoint to the customers' joyful chatter. Elara, immaculate in a crisp white apron emblazoned with the shop's golden spatula emblem, moved with practiced ease behind the counter. A flush colored her cheeks, and her eyes sparkled with a blend of exhilaration and genuine warmth. "Next, please," she called, her voice a clear, melodic note above the gentle din. A young woman, beaming, stepped forward. "Everything looks incredible, Elara!" "I'll have 2 slices of the lavender honey cake and 1 of the spiced pear tart." Elara deftly used a silver server to transfer the delicate slices to elegant paper plates. The lavender honey cake, with its soft purple frosting and scattered candied petals, resembled a miniature fragrant garden. The spiced pear tart, luminous with apricot glaze, offered a more rustic allure. "Excellent choices," Elara smiled, presenting the box. "Enjoy." All morning the delightful pattern persisted. Patrons admired the intricate sugar flowers gracing a sample wedding cake, cooed over miniature unicorn cupcakes, and savored rich, fudgy brownies. One elderly gentleman, after a bite of the lemon meringue pie, closed his eyes in pure ecstasy. "My dear," he declared, his voice thick with emotion, "this is a taste of paradise." Elara's heart swelled. Each compliment, each delighted gasp, was a quiet vindication, a soothing balm to the old wounds from a different ambition. She recalled the stark white walls of the corporate kitchen, the rigid directives, the suffocating pressure of conforming to someone else's mold. She remembered the sharp sting of disloyalty, the veiled whispers, how her reputation had crumbled like fragile shortbread beneath the weight of malicious fabrications. For too long, the taste of aspiration had been bitter, tainted by shattered trust. Now, in a brief respite, Wiping her hands on her apron, she surveyed her domain. Sunlight caught the gold leaf embellishment on the counter, making it gleam. A small girl, her face streaked with chocolate frosting, giggled as her mother cleaned her mouth. A couple shared a slice of red velvet cake, their heads close, whispering intimacies. This was more than just a shop. It was a sanctuary of joy, forged from resilience and a renewed understanding of her true calling. The betrayal had forced her withdrawal, a complete reevaluation. In the quiet solitude of her small apartment, surrounded by the elemental magic of flour and sugar, she had rediscovered the inherent pleasure of baking for its own sake, not for accolades or corporate assent. She had experimented, stumbled, and risen again, each creation a silent act of defiance against the shadow that had sought to consume her. The skills she had meticulously refined, the techniques she had thoroughly mastered, now possessed a new depth, infused with genuine affection and a fervent desire to bring happiness. A young man with bright, curious eyes approached the counter. "Elara, these macarons are astounding. How do you achieve that perfect chewiness with such a crisp shell?" Elara chuckled. "That, my friend, is a closely guarded secret." She winked playfully. Years of trial and error, and a very specific ambient humidity. She relished these small exchanges, the simple connection with her patrons. It was a world away from the guarded, competitive atmosphere she had once inhabited. Here, there was no need to dim her light. As the afternoon matured, the initial flurry subsided into a steady flow. Liam, Elara's cheerful art student assistant, took over at the register, affording Elara a moment to step back. She leaned against the cool tile of the counter, a tranquil smile gracing her lips. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee now intertwined with the lingering sweetness of the pastries. Her gaze drifted from the animated tables to the framed certificate of her pastry school graduation, proudly displayed on a small wall. Beneath it hung a faded but legible handwritten note from her grandmother. "Sweetness always finds a way, my dear." Her former dream, once so vivid and all-encompassing, had dissolved. Yet from its remnants, something far more vibrant had blossomed. This was not merely a patisserie, it was a testament to her strength, her boundless creativity, and her unwavering faith in the transformative power of a truly good dessert. The gilded spatula was more than a commercial enterprise. It was the tangible, sweet manifestation of a life meticulously rebuilt, a promise kept to herself. She had not simply endured, she had flourished, discovering a fulfillment that tasted richer, sweeter, and far more authentic than anything she had ever conceived. This was, unequivocally, a sweeter dream realized.